Hi, everybody.
Family Fab 76 fans. Daddy Darka.
Papa Redbeard.
And we know it's been a little while. We've been kind of not on par with a lot of videos. If you haven't noticed, there's some stuff going on in the world right now. Yeah, there's this bad virus. And now there's a lot of protesting and rioting. Rightfully protesting, rioting bad. We promise things are going to start picking up soon. It's January.
It's June.
It's June, so it's Pride Month, so we have a couple videos all planned out for Pride.
Yeah.
Since all these Pride events have been canceled.
And we did mass taping today, actually, for some videos.
There's a bunch of taping today. And I have an upcoming tattoo appointment. Getting a tattoo of this big guy on my body.
It's going to be a big tattoo.
Big tattoo.
I'm a big guy.
He's a big guy. With his name on it. I know what some of you are probably thinking, kiss of death, but after 23 years, I don't think there's any kiss of death.
That's what a lot of people said when we got married after 18 years. Oh, forget it now. That's just the stake in. That's it. You're done. But you're here 5 years after that.
So speaking of when we got married,
yes,
Kevin and I, we were our foster parents, and as we're planning this massive wedding, we start out small. It got bigger and bigger. And imagine two gay guys
with a big wedding.
Big wedding, got out of hand real fast. We jokingly said, watch, a month before our wedding, CPS will call us with we need you to take a kid. Ha ha ha, funny.
And this is the video.
And this is the video.
How we got our son.
Week and a half before June 18th, I get a phone call at work. And that phone call was from this guy saying, CPS has a newborn for us. We have to go pick him up.
At the hospital.
So I tell my employer, I have to leave to go pick up a baby. And so we're off to go pick up a baby.
Yeah, so at that time, even when I only had one car, so he had the car at that time, so he had to come pick me up. And then we're driving to pick up the baby.
Yep. Well, first we had to stop home. Well, no, we didn't stop home. We were there. So I in pursuit, like literally 5 minutes
from our hometown,
away from the hospital, our phone rings. And it is the director of Child Protective Services saying, you cannot take custody of a child at this time. And we were like, why not? And they're like,
things change.
Same things. Something medical.
Nothing to do with us.
Something medical. And I said, well, are we not getting him period? Or not today? Not today is what he said. And I said, okay. Keep me posted, please, because I gotta know. So life went on.
And it was the next day we're on pins and needles waiting for a phone call.
So I finally reached out to the director and said, listen, I need to know yay or nay because we both work, we got to set up childcare, stuff like that. Are we taking custody of this foster child? And they said, no. So like, all right, a little heartbroken, a little sad, but okay, we'll move on. Frustrated.
Angry, a lot of mixed emotions. Yeah.
We'll move on. So, a week and a half later, June 18th, I have the pictures to prove it.
So I'm at work, and I know the number from DSS, I just have it memorized. So as soon as that popped up on my cell phone, I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on here? So I go into a conference room at work, and I get a call, and it's DSS asking us if we want to take custody of a 3-week-old baby. Okay. And I'm like, of course. And then the caseworker continues to elaborate on the condition of this baby, that he is born addicted to opioids, that he has a very high risk of dying of SIDS, he's very sickly. Now, mind you, she's talking to a person that's never had an infant, so there's already that level of anxiety, let alone now they're telling you all these medical issues that a child might have. But still, sure, well, let's do it. So so I call Evo to see if he can go with me to DSS to pick up the child. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm missing a big thing. So, well, they're going over the biographic information of the baby. I go, so what's the name of this child? And she goes, Nasim. And I go, wait a minute, girl. Did you just call me a week and a half ago for a child named Nasim? Is this the same baby? And then you hear ruffle of paperwork. And she goes, why, yes, we did. I'm like, So, so I leave work early. I call Evo. Unfortunately, he can't leave work early because of what he was doing at the time. So I called my mother to see if she would meet me at DSS because, I'm a bucket of nerves. I mean, here I am taking this infant that by myself, that is medically frail, and I'm nervous. So we get there, and I mean, he's so little. He's in this little tiny car seat. The binky that was in his mouth was bigger than his face. And so I'm not known to be asking a lot of questions. However, he has trained me very well to ask questions, and this stuff was important. So I was asking tons and tons of questions. The one thing I didn't ask, knowing that he was drug addicted, I should have asked about withdrawal. But between nerves and them spewing information at me, I did not even think about it. So we take the baby home, and by the way, he was fussing, he was hungry. So that came natural to me to feed him. So I knew how to set that up, and they told me how much to feed him, which was 2 ounces at the time. He was a slow eater. I was warned about that. And then I finished feeding him.
Makes sense.
It does.
There's more to the
there's more to the story there. So I fed him, and then again, bunch of nerves, and I'm like, what do I do next, Mom? There's something you do after you feed a baby. I knew there was something, again, nerves. And so she goes, honey, you burping. I'm like, that's right. So I burped him, and then Evo came home shortly after that.
So I came home, a little peanut, like literally this big, very sickly looking, very, very sickly looking.
We didn't realize it at the time.
But when you look back at the pictures, like, wow, he was very sick. We found out later that he was also septic when he was born, which he got from his mother.
Yeah. And was in the hospital much longer than we thought he was.
Yes.
Yeah. In the NICU.
Yeah. So, and we find all this stuff out
much later
down the line.
In court when things were coming out.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So as soon as I picked up little tiny peanut, I'm instantly in love.
5 pounds 4 ounces.
Yeah.
3 weeks old, guys. 5 pounds 3 ounces.
Instantly in love. He was so tiny and precious. And so Kevin and I, all right, this is it, we're dads. And we were only supposed to keep him a month.
Yeah, this was our, get back into the groove beat. How we set up because when I hear people that have the 9-month pregnancy and everything, I'm so envious because again, you heard the beginnings of this whole saga. Went to work on a Thursday, not dads, not even knowing we're going to be dads that day. And at 1:30 in the afternoon, we are dads to an infant that's drug addicted. There's no preparation. And it's not like we could, because of other things that we enacted, we didn't really have FMLA time or anything to use. And so we had to continue on with being brand new dads and go to work. So anyway, it's the first night. And how we set it up was that we were going to do every other night. Okay? Can we make it there?
Yeah, make it.
And so the first night was my night. And again, drug addicted child. So his first feeding was at 11 o'clock. Went without a problem. His second feeding was around 1:30, 2 o'clock. This one didn't go very well. He started breathing very fast and shaking. And I just knew what it was, which was the withdrawal. And I just held him really firm in my arms and just slowed my breathing. I did skin to skin, slowed my breathing, and I say this all the time, it felt like forever, but in reality, looking back at it, 30 seconds, 40 seconds max, and he was fine. And that was it. Then the feeding continued, and he fell back asleep, and that only happened a couple times.
Yeah.
And then he was fine.
Like, periodically he would do these
hiccupy things.
Yeah, like these shivers.
Yeah,
like
shiver. Yeah.
And the pediatrician told us that was probably a withdrawal effect from the drugs.
Yeah.
But, you know, they were kind of, it's scary. I've never seen a kid do that. It was kind of creepy.
But my point with that is that I knew what to do without ever being trained or even talking about it. And I could recognize what it was. I don't know how. And I feel that was God. Like,
God
helping me out. Yeah.
So we wake up the next day. Kevin shares that story with me. And then it dawns on us. We're still in the middle of planning a wedding a month away.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, I guess we were still tentatively planning like a honeymoon. And so that was still tentatively being planned. And then working around getting centerpieces, catering finalized.
Actually, no. You know what brought that up? We didn't come up with our wedding's a month away. Remember, it was the social worker coming to the house for check the house, and she in the paperwork, and she goes, "So I see you have a wedding coming up. Congratulations. So just so you know, if you need respite care for a honeymoon, we have services available."
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. So
that's right.
Yeah.
And we're like, no.
We had to pull a few things out of the nursery because there was a bunch of stuff for our candy bar and centerpiece.
Oh, yeah.
Stacked up in the nursery.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul had to come out and
we had to move into another closet.
So, yeah. So, that starts that whole process. And it was pretty intense in regards to that. And that brings us to the weekend of July 4th.
4th of July. Now, mind you, up to this point, I mean, it's very obvious to tell what kind of man I am by watching us on social media, but I was being very guarded, as much as Kevin could be, where I loved Nasim to pieces, but I still was protecting myself because I didn't want to be hurt again. Because like I said, we lost another child, and it really tore my heart. So I was very afraid because, again, we agreed, let's get back into the saddle, but there's no, I feel deeply, and I love being a dad. And so I didn't want to give him back. I mean, I'm like, uh-oh. So I'm like, but at that point, the reality was we were going to have to give him back. So I had to protect myself to a point. All right, so go on. It's July 4th weekend.
July 4th weekend, and Nasim starts to vomit. Not like, at first it's like little spits ups in the beginning, and then so we're on the phone consult with the on-call pediatrician. It's probably just a virus. He's still pooping and peeing, like, all right.
And I'm the one, it will be fine. Okay. And he's like, no,
this isn't right. I'm one of 14 kids, so I'm like, then the vomiting started becoming like projectile-y, like Exorcist projectile-y. You don't remember that?
I do. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
And then his head started spinning around.
And then he started spinning around. Stop it. So I'm like, this
crazy.
Is not right. So we then pack up and we go to the ER. As we're speed dialing DSS, because anytime you go to the hospital, you gotta let them know what's going on. So we fly to the ER. So we're there. They're still thinking it's like a viral thing. They get an IV in them. That broke our hearts. So needed to happen, the IV, but it that screech that babies do when they're hurt.
And Nasim wasn't a crier.
Right. So it was just it broke my heart. I don't think through this whole saga.
I had to walk out of the room, remember?
Yes.
So he was holding Nasim, and I had to walk out of the room because I'm crying. And this, like, I remember this nurse, she's like cradling me,
Yeah.
like, it's gonna be okay. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I was like, I felt bad because I'm like, you're taking away attention from
At
your
the
son.
hospital we were at this hospital we were at, the nursing team that was there was amazing.
Yeah.
And very small world story. I'm a nurse. I work in a rehab residential care, and the woman who put the IV in our son transferred over and is now our intake nurse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
small
cool.
small world. She doesn't remember me. I'm like, you don't remember me? She's like, no. I'm like, I probably did 1,000 IVs. So they don't know what's wrong with him. He's getting all kinds of tests done, and they don't know. So then they decide they cannot treat him in the ER. He needs to be admitted. So we are ambulanced over to
The NICU.
the NICU
At another hospital.
hospital. Because the hospital around here, there's the main core hospital, and then there's the pediatric part of the hospital, which is over on
5 miles away. Yeah.
very short distance. So we take the ambulance right over there. Kevin meets us there, and we're there. And that was another, even though traumatic, amazing experience. Every nurse there was amazing.
So awesome.
We were there, and then we were exhausted, like we hadn't slept yet.
Yeah, this was the next morning, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or afternoon.
it was the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the one nurse was like, "You guys can go home. We'll call you if there's any change." And we were telling that we told the nurse, like, we're not leaving him. You don't understand. We're all he has, like, because his parents were notified that he was in the hospital, and they could have come and visited, but they did not. They didn't come. And
Well, no, the dad did shortly.
that was
Just
a day later as we were being transferred out.
Yeah.
So yeah, but not in the very beginning.
Oh,
they
no.
didn't come.
Yeah. Sorry.
So we're all he has. We're not leaving him. And so they got us a family room, which was where we would swap off and sleep
Every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours.
We should have done every 3 hours, but we weren't thinking. So, like, yeah.
And we were living off of graham crackers and peanut butter.
And pop from the soda machine.
I was drinking water.
Yeah.
And
Nasim never touched the only time Nasim touched whatever that was.
The little
incubator looking thing, yeah.
Cradle thing they had there for him.
Because see, we were in this room, this isolation room.
Yeah.
Because
negative pressure. We were in for all you medical
is?
people, it's called a negative pressure.
And because they didn't know what was wrong with him,
right? So they didn't want anything.
So we would hold him. He was held constant the entire time. And that was another traumatic thing, of course, I got to deal with, where it was one of Evo's 2 hours he was sleeping, and I'm sorry, I can't remember specifically, but they had to pump his stomach. And so they put that tube down his nose, and that was horrible.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't there.
That was horrible.
I would probably start crying.
So I didn't, but it's me. I'm always crying.
So they still don't know what's wrong with him.
Yeah.
And so one of the tests he had while we were at the main hospital was an ultrasound of his abdomen. And they suspected of something called pyloric stenosis, which is where the muscle between your stomach and your small intestine gets inflamed and causes like a blockage knot that stops the flow of things going. But they said that test came back negative. So we're like, okay, it's not that. So finally, it's his probably 20th time vomiting.
Because again, he weighs so little, they didn't want him to keep losing weight.
Right.
Because he's so tiny.
And pediatrician, the on-call pediatrician said, we need to redo that test again. Because everything this is, it sounds like pyloric stenosis. So they do it again, and sure enough, the second ultrasound shows the blockage. So this is now another transfer to another hospital.
Where they can do...
Because our hospital system where we live in can't handle pediatric surgery. So we are rushed over for emergencies, even to be transferred to the third hospital. Biological dad shows up. And he just shows up just to take a couple pictures.
Yeah, but he's got to get back to work.
So literally 2 pictures were snapped, and he leaves again.
And some questions.
And he leaves. And the social worker, the caseworker was like, your kid's going to have surgery. And then, did he show up at Albany now?
No. So they kept trying to get a hold of him to sign off the paperwork.
Oh, that's
and they weren't able to get a hold of him, and we couldn't do it. And so the social worker of DSS is like, that's it. We have the rights to do it. We're just going to sign off on it. The baby needs it done.
Right. So the commissioner of DSS had to sign off on permission to have the baby have surgery. And I remember telling Omar, like, your son's going to have major surgery. You should meet us there. Like, this
No, I got to work.
Major surgery. I have to work. I'm like, okay. And
So do we. Yeah, but look, here we are.
We have to work too. And that's when I think Kevin and I go, I think we're keeping him longer than a month.
I'm like, you think?
Kevin was not there for this. I was bringing him down to the ambulance. And I go to get in. And there were 2 EMS drivers. A young guy and an older guy. And the older guy was like, you can't get in here. And I said, I'm going with him. No, you can't go. I said, I'm not leaving his side. So either you let me ride with you, or I'll drive him there myself in my car. But I'm not leaving him. That's not an option. So, the young kid could tell things were getting a little frictiony. And he's like, it's not a big deal, just let him ride. So I climbed him back and I rode. I could tell the older guy was really annoyed by this, but whatever. I wasn't leaving him. And we get to the third hospital of our adventure. And we're there. And we're waiting. So they bring us right into surgery. And we meet with, was it the surgeon or the anesthesiologist? The little short German lady.
That's the anesthesiologist.
So we meet the anesthesiologist. She's this little short German woman. And I don't know what she thought. But she's asking us these questions about like family medical, and like we don't know. We don't. And she's like, he's your baby. How do you know? I'm like, we're foster parents. We don't know. So she's like, oh, okay. So they hurry us up. They rush us out of there. They rush him in. And he has surgery. And it was pretty, like, would you say it was fast?
Yeah, it wasn't too long.
Pretty fast. Pretty fast surgery. So.
By now my mom's there.
Mom's there. His sister's there. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So he comes out of surgery. He's asleep when he comes back from surgery. And he's just laying there, a peaceful little angel. And Kevin's sister looks at us and goes, you guys look exhausted. Have you eaten anything? And we're like, crackers and peanut butter.
For 3 days.
For 3 days. She goes, why don't you go and get something to eat? Now, attached to the hospital
is a Panera.
So, anyone who knows if there's a hospital attached to your Panera, if there's a Panera attached to your hospital, then you know where we're at. And maybe there's multiple hospitals attached to Paneras, I don't know. So, we go down, we go to the Panera, and I remember ordering our food, and we ate in silence.
We're exhausted. Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally.
We were very exhausted.
We're pooped.
And we come back up to the room, and Kevin's sister's still there, so we're there, and and that roller coaster.
Well, what I was going to say is, so I left the hospital in love with Nasim. Like, he was my son. It was my baby. Can't take my baby. I love him so much. Like He was my son.
Yeah. So that we left, and that was the beginning of the forging of our family, was our son having bipolar stenosis.
Yeah.
Medical crisis.
Yeah. And it's funny because to fast forward 5 years later, and like I forget his beginnings because he's thriving. He is thriving. That boy has been given such a gift, and I'm not referring to like, oh, toot our horn. I'm just talking about like he's thriving. Like he's so smart. There is nothing
He's athletic.
preventing him from being born. Yeah, he's asthmatic. That's it. Mild case.
No, I said he's very charismatic.
Oh, I thought you said asthmatic.
He does have asthma.
He does. Mild case. But yeah, he's like you guys see the videos.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's smart. Like you never know his beginnings.
So, it's
yeah.
So there's a whole other half of the story, which is the whole court process, but we'll save that for part two of this whole conversation, because it gets pretty lengthy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we got Nasim and how the forging of our family started with that. There are other parts to the story in part 2, possibly part 3. I don't know where it's going to turn into. Because more happened along the line throughout courts and people being arrested and evading the police. It's like a drama documentary.
What we were brought into, it's just right. It's just crazy.
If there's any film producers like of a Lifetime movie watching this, please contact us. We've got the best script for you ever.
Yeah,
it will win you awards.
And and one thing, and again, this will come up more parts, but I mean, those of you who have done foster and for the goal to adopt, I would like to think this is probably a normal thing where you're a couple and you all know what I'm talking about with like the roller coaster, and so of course you know the full picture.
When we tell you these stories,
they sound like we make them up.
Like we make them up. Like we're making this stuff up. And unless you've lived it, you don't understand that, no, this is all true.
So Evo and I, like trying to process everything for 2 years, we try to make sense of everything. And the more you try to make sense,
it doesn't.
And
then you try to explain it to your family, and you
sound like a moron.
A moron and
like
a
you're
crazy
making up
person.
Stuff.
Like, yeah. And they look at you like, what?
It changed. But I thought you said that's what we were told.
So it's crazy. So until then, thank you for watching.
Thank you guys so much
for
supporting us.
Yeah, supporting us. Thank you for supporting. As always, check out our Instagram, FamilyFab76. And if you find it in your hearts, please support us on Patreon if you're able to, so that we can keep continuing making videos and going on family adventures once all this craziness dies down.
Which it will.
It will. Things will get better. It gets better.
It gets better.
All right. Have a good one,
guys.
Bye.
Bye.